We all have moments where other people see things in you that you can't see in yourself yet. You're more than capable. Of course you're going to do this.
So you're not going to get into the job just because you have a degree. It's because you have the connection with the people.
In my family, sometimes we've dealt with our feelings through alcohol. It's
Yeah.
like you're going to process your feelings, or you're just going to do it in healthy ways of talking it out, or you're going to do it in unhealthy ways of eating, of alcohol use and things like that. It's your number one piece of advice you would give to students or young people trying to navigate their career journey. Welcome to Career Canvas,
Where you can explore and design
your future career. My name is Juan Cangas,
My name is Manger.
and we're glad that you're here for our second episode. You got an opportunity to listen to me during the first episode in my career journey. Today, we're flipping the table, the script, whatever. We're flipping something, and now I'm going to be the interviewer. Yeah, the background. We flipped everything. This whole room has been flipped around. And now I'm going to get a chance to interview Manger and talk a little bit about your career journey and how you got to the place you're at right now. Right now, or in the past, you worked at the University of Nebraska Omaha as a higher ed professional, working with students, coaching them on their career pathways, on their degrees. Now you're transitioning your focus. Now you're more working on education and community advocacy. And specifically, you founded an organization called Kenya Academy. Tell me a little bit more about that organization, how you founded it, what's its mission, and how things are going right now.
I think I found it on accidents because everything started during COVID. That was when I finished my undergrad and I went to Burma and volunteered there for 2 months. I came back and I served in AmeriCorps. So if you guys don't know what AmeriCorps is, it's a national service program. And I was broke the whole time because they barely pay me. But I'm glad that I did that program because that it really exposed me to a lot of challenges and barriers in the Omaha community in terms of low income family and the accessibility of higher education and stuff like that. So during COVID, I was bored and I was jobless after my service for a few months, and I recorded myself, started to talk about my experience as an immigrant, as a former refugee, right, and as a first-gen college student graduated from college, right. And then I got a lot of comments from the community say, hey, you should do more because it is helping our youngsters. And that's how it started. So I started to partner with a lot of communities, leaders, scholars from, I would say, all over the world.
I've seen some of these videos. I mean, some people you would get from what were some of the countries like Australia?
Yeah.
And so these are Korean individuals, right?
Yeah,
Korean refugees that were in other countries, some in the United States. They were professionals, they were leaders, and you were interviewing them.
Yep.
A lot of these interviews were in your own language.
Yeah.
The Korean language, right? And so it became a great resource for people in your community. What I love about what you did is you didn't get all the special gear and cameras and microphones. Like so many people, that's what stops them from moving forward on something that they're passionate about. They're like, oh, well, who am I? And I don't have the gear and I don't have the money. You turned on your laptop, you made you made some messages, and then you just click record, and it got some traction.
Yeah.
I mean, right now you got quite a few followers on Facebook.
Yeah, 22,000.
22,000. Yeah. And people that, I mean, I've seen some of the comments on there. It's like, wow, this is so helpful. This is helping our youth. I love that. So tell me a little bit more about how are things going right now with the Academy? What are some of the projects that you're working on?
Yeah, so our main mission is to make education accessible, and also to provide educational and professional development, products and resources to our community. And when I talk about community, because of the social media, it's so accessible, right? And so I try to think about the global community. So now we have workshop facilitated by volunteers, so like Korean individuals, volunteers from all over the place. So recently we have a professional from California who's a Ganya working for USAID. So she has a lot of experience with working with international students and everything. So yeah, mostly it's workshop, and we try to slowly build in our community through choosing or creating ambassadors. So right now I have 20 ambassadors. So they're all volunteers from all over the the globe. So we got people from Burma, Korean states, Thailand, and even from refugee camps. So that's the part about I'm excited because I grew up there, but me thinking about someone like me getting the opportunity to be in the bigger platform, it's just a big blessing, right? And we got a few from Australia, Canada, US. So it's just beautiful to see, people coming together for this greater cause.
So one of the missions then is like you're building up leaders
Yep.
within the Korean community, but worldwide.
Yeah.
And the hope of that is that they would go out and do what?
To make a change, to add values to the people in whatever, capacity.
Okay. So go out, make a change, maybe go out and start your own organizations, right? Maybe go back to the refugee camps or back to Thailand, advocate for things in your community, go into politics, but be equipped to give back to your community.
Right on.
That's beautiful. So we know where you're at right now. I want to kind of take you back because you've been on your own journey of getting to this place. And this isn't the only place you're going to end up. I think one of the things that we want to show students and people working with students during this podcast is that things have changed. It used to be you were going to a career and you'd be there for 40, 50 years in the same company and then you'd retire there. That's not the case now. Professionals, it's become the norm now, and it's okay. Like things change. You go into a career field and then you shift and you change, right? You go and work for a company for maybe 3 or 4 years and then you grow and then you say, okay, I'm going into something else. Now, the great thing about you is like you've kind of built upon to this place where you're at right now. But let's go back to kind of tell me a little bit about your experience growing up as, refugee from Myanmar, Burma, being in Thailand. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so a little background. My parents were Korean, people from Burma, but me being Korean, I have never been in Burma. Like, I did not grow up there. So because of the civil war, they fled to Thailand in, I think 1980 something. But I was born in a refugee camp and grew up there until I was about 14 or 15. Then I moved to the States. So I think, it's just very interesting to see like, okay, you're born in Thailand, but you're not Thai. So you're not given the privileges, the citizenship. But whenever I introduce myself, it's like, oh, I'm from Thailand, but I'm not Thai, But my parents are from Burma, but they're not Burmese. It's just very interesting to see my story because like we are, if you think about it, like minoritized community, right? So from refugee camp, then we came to the States in 2011. My father passed just like a year before we came. A lot of things happened, but yeah, we came to the States and I went to a high school in Las Vegas and then we moved to Omaha, and then from Omaha, that's how I met you, from Benson. And ever since I moved to Omaha, I felt like my life has been elevated by a lot of community members, mentors, and the leaders that I have met. And then I got a scholarship and I went to UNO and
Well, let's slow down a little bit.
Yes.
Tell me, your dad passed away. What were some things about your dad that you remember? Is there anything that he kind of like have characteristics that you have from him or things that he taught you that to this day you're like, wow, I really hold those things dear?
Yeah. So my dad, he grew up Christian, but I remember he not wanting to go to church, but he would usually like go to the hospital to like, whenever he has the money, he will give it to the people. That's what I remember, because when he died, a lot of people that we don't know come and say, hey, this uncle give me some money, back in when I was in the hospital. I was like, oh, okay. I thought he never go to church.
So he was a giver.
Yeah, he was a giver.
He was somebody that's focused not just on like, getting, and somebody who's just focused on surviving, but he was like, how can I help others as well?
Exactly. And that's in the refugee camp. So, we're all poor, but like even with the little that he has, he is a giver. And I think he is also a very ambitious man. He always talk about the American dream, I want to come to the States and then have a garden and then sell veggies and stuff like that, right? I think what I inherit from my dad is the ethic, the work ethic, and the growth mindsets and just love for the people.
Yeah. So I've got an opportunity to work with a lot of refugee students, immigrant students. Not all of them are as passionate as you are about going back and serving your community. Where do you think that comes from? Because a lot of them, a lot of students I've interacted with, like they came here when they were teenagers, they lived in the refugee camps, and it's not that they've forgotten, but it's just like, they're kind of busy, they're in their work stuff. But you have this thing about you that you're like, I have to give back. I can't forget about my culture. Even Kenya, like that's how you say Karen, right? In your language. It's right. Not Karen, it's Kenya. It's Kenya.
That's what we call ourselves.
Yeah. And even in you sharing some of that, it's like, this is who we are and we cannot forget about who we are. Why? Where do you think that comes from for you?
I would say self-awareness, and that we'll talk about this concept last episode. Self-awareness sound easy, but it's not many people are practicing it. And I think a lot of Korean community here, we are not really taught to sit down and think about our lives. Many times it's just like we are on the surviving mode. So like, you have to do this, go to school, making your parents proud and get a job, work, live the life here. But I think the reality is we have to think about, why did we get to this country in the first place, as an immigrants? How did we become a refugee? So it just, I think, really thinking about why, how, asking yourself a lot of great questions really, it will help you really think about, okay, what can I do with my life in the future? And we talk about career here. So, without knowing yourself, it's really hard to connect to the other part, right?
Well, I just thought about something. A lot of times we feed into the narrative that other people give us. And it might be a true narrative, but if that's the only narrative, like if we don't listen to the narrative inside of us, then we'll never really be truly fulfilled, Because the narrative of America is success, money, get freedom, right? And those are all true, but there's some parts of you that are also like, yeah, like I went to college, I got an education, I have the freedom, but there's still something about me and connected to my culture and connected to my roots that I need to have in my life in order to be truly fulfilled. And, that's not for everybody, even if you're an immigrant refugee, but I do think that listening to your internal narrative, right? And your cultural narrative too. Yeah. Because I've, as much as I've interacted with people, it's like, a lot of refugee and immigrant students, they come here and they buy into that narrative. I got to hustle. I got to go get an education. And if you don't take a time to step back, sometimes you can get lost in that narrative and get to a point where you are successful, making the money and all those things, but there's something about you that's missing. Was there ever a point like that in your life as you were on this career journey?
Yeah, definitely. So back in college, right, I majored in communication studies, but before that, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just did it because I found it very practical, and I grew up always I like to talk and not just talk, but I also enjoy writing too. So but yes, and after I graduated, I was like, okay, what am I going to do with this, and my mom said, oh, you finished college, so now you're gonna have a great job. It's not true. So that's the scary part, telling your parents that yes, I did have the opportunity to go to college, but I'm not gonna have a great job right away. And me, I think I did really
can I ask you a question real quick? For any immigrant refugee students that are listening right now, what do you wish you would have done differently when having these conversations with your parents? Right? Because for some of us, it's really difficult because we never really talk to our parents. They kind of talk to us and we're just like, yes, mom, yes, dad, as a sign of respect, depending on our cultural values. Yeah. But what advice would you give to young people, especially in immigrant and refugee households? It's like, how do you have that conversation with your parents of like, hey, mom, dad, the way you see some of the how careers work and how college works is different than how I'm actually experiencing it, and I'm thinking I'm actually wanting to do this. How would you advise somebody?
So what I did was I sit down with my mom and I try to put things into perspective in ways that she understands it. So I talk about how sometimes you have to in order to work for someone, you have to be their driver first, how you guys taught us about the coffee step, you have to really show them character, integrity and the skill, and then you develop your skill from there, and then you can maybe get a job in that company. So yeah, I tried to put that into perspective, and then she got it. She's not that parent who oh, you have to be doctor, you have to be nurse. I think for my mom is mostly it's just I hope you're I hope you're healthy, I hope you love God, I hope you're helping the people, but I also hope that you are sustainable. I hope you make money too, right? So that helps a lot. So I don't have to go fighting with my mom. It's just me trying to help her understand, and then I just did my thing from there. So she gave me a lot of freedom, and she trusted my journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say it's not just us doing the part, but I think parents who are watching, I think it's important that you are opening up your heart for your child.
Yeah, I think being open if you're a parent and listening.
Yeah.
I think that's such an important thing, listening to, well, why are you feeling this way? And I think having those open conversations, because I think it's very difficult for young people to say, I'm kind of lost. I don't really know what I want to do. And yes, I'm going to college, But honestly, I feel like I'm kind of wasting a little bit of time and money. And those kind of conversations are difficult to have because then your parents will ask, or an adult will ask, okay, well then what do you want to do? And it's not acceptable to say, I don't know. Yeah. Right. You know, I don't know what it is. I just know that I'm having this feeling and I need to process it with someone and if they could say, all right, well, let's go try some things, you know, go and try some different things, pursue something that you're maybe a little bit interested in or you have an inclination for, and I will support you. I think having those conversations are really, really important. And it seems like your mom did some of that for you.
Yeah, it was definitely uncomfortable and it's not very normal, right? In like I would say like immigrant community, but you as a daughter or you as a kid, you have to take initiative. I think that's something that I have learned along the way too. Don't wait for them to come to you to understand your story. You have to reach out to them, and then you just have to create that culture that we need it, right? Because as an immigrant, I think we, you know, sometimes we have to unlearn some of the stuff in our culture too. So
tell me more about that. What are some things you had to unlearn or some things you had to challenge in your own culture to do some of this stuff?
Yeah.
I think I know some of the things.
Example, they don't talk about feelings, right? And they just like try to assume stuff. Example, like when you go to school, you are taught about, oh, hey, talk about this with your family, your parents, you know, talk about these resources. But when you get home, people don't talk. So it's just like, how can we unlearn some of this tradition and then create a better community? Like, okay, mom, I know back in your home country, you don't talk about this stuff because maybe it's not relevant to you, or maybe you don't have the time because you always have to run from the enemies, right? So as a kid, I think we really have to understand the story and forgive our parents and create a new culture.
Yeah. I think sometimes when I've listened to, especially like my grandparents or my mom and things like that, I mean, they went through some really difficult things. I was just thinking about my grandma last time when she, my grandfather, unfortunately, loved to drink more than loved his family. And so he died, crossing the street from one bar to another. He got ran over and died. And my grandmother was left with basically 6 kids. Some of them were almost, you know, like they were teenagers and they were working already, but she still had some young ones. And she was dirt poor. She was dealing with health issues. And I think to myself, like, I could not go through that. Yeah. I would have nervous breakdown if I had like 3-4 kids, you know, and didn't have a job, didn't have an education, but she found a way.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we say, well, look, we did this, you know, in older generations were like, well, we did this. We went through the woods. You know, we were shot at, you know, people were killed and you're over here depressed. What's wrong with you? You're in America and things like that. But I think part of the freedom that we have in the US and part of, you know, having just a higher level of quality of living is now we have the freedom to be able to feel our feelings. To be able to say, hey, I am feeling this way. I am feeling that way. Like you said, like if you're running and you're just surviving, you don't have time for your feelings. Exactly. And it's not that they don't process their feelings because unfortunately in my family, sometimes we've dealt with our feelings through alcohol, you know, in unhealthy ways. Yeah. Like you're going to process your feelings. Yeah. Are you just going to do it in healthy ways of talking it out, or you're going to do it in unhealthy ways of eating, of alcohol use and things like that? So I think some of the adults in our lives, you know, it's like you did process feelings. You just did it in different ways. Yeah. And I think talking through it is a very, very helpful thing. Yeah. Is there, as you were on this journey then, you know, talking with your parents about things you wanted to do, tell me a little bit about your college experience. How did that go? You say you're majoring in communication. What made you choose that major?
Oh.
Major, what made you choose that major?
I major in smartness. Okay. So when I first started, it was actually sociology. And then I realized I have to write this thesis paper, long paper, right? And I did not want to do that and take the last 2 classes. So then I majored in communication because I had a little bit time and I have the full ride scholarship. So they pay for 5 years and I'm not going to leave school because I love to learn. Yeah. So then so at first it's sociology as a major and then I added communication. And then I realized I love communication more because I met this young professor, so young but also so smart, and I think he was the reason I majored in communication, because I took this interpersonal.
What did you like about this professor?
Yeah, not just him, but like his class, right? Like interpersonal communication. So like understanding your interaction with the people, and then we also talk about nonverbal communication, and we also talk about power and dynamics in politics and communication. How is those debate really influence the way people see politics and stuff like that. It's just like so interesting. So yeah, that's why I did communication. But also, if I were to go back and choose something else, I think I wanted to learn about human rights and entrepreneurship, I think.
Okay, so human rights, entrepreneurship, and it's interesting because like even that inclination is kind of something you're doing now, right?
Yeah.
With the advocacy in through your organization.
Exactly.
All right, so you get done with college. You get the spark of like communication. You get this class. You tried different things. You graduate college. What happens next?
I sit down and I said, okay, what's next? And then the great thing that I did at that time is I talked to community leaders, and then they said, hey, if you want to go back to Korean States, we want to pay for your flight. And I was like, why not? So me and
Were
Cha,
these people in your church? Were these people?
it's a Korean Society of Nebraska. So like the KSN.
So you were involved?
Yes.
You were involved. Okay. So how did you get involved in this organization? And what, how was it helpful for you?
Yeah, I feel like back in my day, which not long ago, but like 10 years ago, right, when we first go to college, I feel like we were the first generation, so we have a lot of the community have a lot of expectation for us. So like with the Korean community, I feel like if you're a Korean, you are just automatically working for Korean people. So
like there's these organizations and they're like, hey, you're coming with us, we're doing an event, you have to be part of it,
something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
But I feel like with KSN, they were very structure about giving us the
what is KSA?
Korean Society of Nebraska.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Nice.
And then they pay for our flight, and then it's me, Iris, and Cha. We all went to Korean State for the first time, and it changed my life.
How was that experience? What was it life-changing about it?
So, even as a Korean, me going back to Korean State, it's a little bit culture shock too, because I grew up in the camp, and
You were 14 when you left,
right,
and you went back when you were
back in Korean State, not in the camp.
in
so
Korean
it's
State.
just like
How old were you when you went back?
After college, so 22. What is
Okay,
it?
so it was about 8 years
Yeah,
since you'd been
to the States.
you went to Korean State, not to
Yeah.
the refugee camps, but still within your culture, and actually getting to see like your native land.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is like in Korean State, even within the Korean State, they're so diverse. We have Korean people from different part of the land, and they all spoke differently. And it was a culture shock for me, because I thought Korean is just like Korean, Sgal Korean, Bo Korean, that's it. That's all I know. But there you have like Mone Boa Korean, Boe Korean. There's so many other Korean, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And
You see that diversity even within
Exactly.
your own culture.
Exactly. And I saw kids waking up at 4, doing the cleaning, doing the cooking. They have like different groups, and then they all go to school and they all sing, and we all eat together. And then, I experienced a lot of barriers when it comes to like them having access to quality education too. And that's part of what I do, why I do now.
Yeah, because you've seen that need.
Yeah, the need, definitely.
Absolutely. Awesome. So then you come back, and then what do you choose to do after
And then
that?
I did AmeriCorps, the national service,
Okay.
for a year.
How did you get connected with that AmeriCorps?
With a mentor from college. So they graduated, and then they did the program, and then I talked to them in this one, like a lunch area, and then yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you is that as you're going on this career journey, I don't know why I get this picture of like a spider web, and you have these connections with people, and they're opening doors for you.
Yeah.
Some of them you want to do, and some of them you're like, you're Korean, you got to go do this. But you've kind of spread yourself out, right? And you have these connections, and they're connecting you to different opportunities, versus you're just going to school and you're just like, I'm just going to class and going back and shutting my doors. You didn't do that. You got connected. You went to school. You got connected to organizations. You have mentors. You're talking to people, and all of a sudden these doors are opening up.
Yeah.
And that's how it happens. It's not, sometimes you could do it. You could see something on YouTube, or you can see something, but it's that human connection of somebody encouraging you to say, hey, you'd be great for AmeriCorps. What is that? Well, let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
So they tell you about AmeriCorps, and then what do you end up doing with that?
So like 2 months before the contract ended, COVID hit, and that's how I started Current Education Resources. Back in the day, it was, you know, this platform that I run online.
Yeah.
And later it became like a online, you know, platform for like a learning.
Yeah.
And during that time, I also kept in touch with my former advisor from UNO. And then they were going to start a new program at UNO, and then they reached out to me, and I was like, why not? I needed a job. So I applied, and the crazy thing is they told me 20 people applied for it, but they chose me. Why? Because they know me, and they know that I have the heart to help the people.
Yeah.
So that's how I got
They've
the job
seen you
at
in
UNO.
action.
Yeah.
They've seen they've seen you do some work around campus, probably.
Yeah, so I talk about that story all the time because, you know, you're not going to get into the job just because you have a degree. It's because you have the connection with the people.
Yeah, that's a really good insight. Say that again.
Oh, what did I say? You're not going to get the job you wanted just because you have a degree, but because of the connection that you made.
Yeah, it's not what you know, but who you know, right?
Yeah.
We've all heard it before, but it's so true. I mean, it's like making those connections with people. Obviously, you have to be like competent. You got to know what you're doing.
Exactly.
But people will give you the benefit of the doubt if they see you, if they know you, if they know your character, if they know what you stand for, if they know you're going to show up and you're going to do the work, and you're going to do it in an excellent way.
Yeah, and I also forgot to mention, like, even back in college, I also do a lot of volunteering. You know, I became a mentor. I serve on the like a social media board, and I just like try to put myself out there. And I think that's one big reason why I got the job at the university.
And I'm sure there was moments when you're like, bro, I'm like all over the place. Like I don't have any time. And obviously you need to have some balance in your life. But I think sometimes, especially in this day and age, I see a lot of students, they're so secluded and they're waiting for someone to come and offer them something or give them an opportunity or tell them about a scholarship. And I always tell students, like, you got to go and get it. Like, you got to go out and make things happen. And yeah, I'm sure there was moments you got put in situations where you're like, I don't know if I would be able to do this. Like, I don't know if I have all the skills levels. Is there anything like that happened when you first started working?
Yeah, actually, funny story. So when I majored in communication studies, so if you translate the word communication to a Korean language, it's just pretty much like speaking. So I did that, and then
you tell your mom, I'm gonna major in speaking.
Yeah. So I mean, she did it. She has no idea what I was doing. But a few friends of mine said, "Oh, don't you know how to speak already?" So it was like, oh, it's a little hurt, right? But then after I graduated, I got to speak at this one event for just 1 hour, and they paid me $500. And I'm like, look at me now, communication studies. I'm not trying to say that that's the only reason, but I think sometimes you really have to not listen to the people, even if the people who love you, they don't know what's best for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's like they're not trying to be mean or put you down, but they have a limited view of what's possible. Right. And then they kind of try to put that on you, indirectly or sometimes directly.
Yeah.
So listening to yourself, listening to like, hold on, like, where am I being guided? What are the next steps that I need to take? How do I need to push myself? I always tell students to, the way you grow a skill, the way you get better at something is you got to find something that you feel a little uncomfortable about. Now, not dramatically. Like if you've never spoken to 1,000 people, probably not start there.
Yeah.
But maybe if you're like, I'm comfortable speaking to 5 people, right? Now push yourself and speak to 10 people at a time, right? 20 people, 100 people. Slowly, pushing that boundary is going to get you to grow. So you became a professional at UNO. Tell me a little bit about that experience, some lessons you learned, connections you made that maybe helped you later on, as you're doing your new role here now.
For sure. At UNO, I became an exploratory study coach. So I help students explore major and careers, and then I became academic coach, academic advisor, which I help them with classes and stuff like that. And I also became a instructor, seminar instructor. So we also
teach college classes.
I did. Ooh. Yeah, so I taught.
Was that cool? Years. Like just to teach in college, you're like, dang, I'm like.
At first, it was scary because when I first started doing COVID, so I taught behind the screen, so I don't really know if people are listening or if they're engaging. So you have students with their camera off, and then they just put a little notes in the comments, say, hey, I'm here, but I'm, stuff like that. But after 2 years, I got better. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I was very scared, oh my gosh, I have to teach college students. But then you realize, oh, they're just students just like you.
Yeah. Did you ever feel any like imposter syndrome?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What were some of those thoughts that you had about yourself?
Yeah, no, I thought about that a lot. Like, oh, I'm a refugee kid, you know, I'm Asian, I'm a woman, I'm very small, you know, am I really fitted here? Those thoughts always like be with me.
What have you found helpful to overcome those thoughts, to move past them, to not let them limit you?
I think really to sit down with yourself and then to really think about, okay, they hire me because they see something in me, right? Like I did not get into this just because, you know, they think I'm cute, right? It's because like they saw something in me and they want to develop me and they want to invest in me. So I think on my end, I just have to really trust the process and then open up to learn. So what I did was being teachable, coachable. So I think about how my experience, you know, my time at Thrive, how I used to present, you know, and it has helped me in my college, my like a career at UNO because nobody teach you how to teach in college. You know, they hire you, they say go teach. Yeah.
So you gotta have a teaching certificate in order to teach like every other level, and then college you're like, no, never mind, just go do your thing. You know.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I think, you know, something I've recently just started to learn about imposter syndrome is at the start of it, you kind of are an imposter, like because you're trying something that you've never done before, right? If you're trying to, for example, I remember I feeling that way when I was first speaking, when you're teaching or you're doing a new role, or now you start an organization or you start a podcast, you know, I think that voice is trying to warn you that, hey, you might mess up because you've never done this before. There's more evidence that you're not going to be able to do it, that you haven't done it versus that you have done it. But you got to put in the reps, and eventually you got to get so much evidence of like, I've done this. I am a podcaster. I am a teacher. I am a speaker. I am a nonprofit executive, right? Or organizer and advocate, because you've done it. So it takes, I was talking to a friend last time and I was like, I've done speaking so long now to so many audiences that when that fear comes in and says, you're not going to be able to do it. I say, it almost takes me more faith to believe I can't than the faith that it requires of me that I can, because I've done so much of it, right? So it's like, at some point, the more actions you take, you start building some evidence that I am this thing. And at first you don't have that evidence. So that's why that voice is louder.
Yeah. It's but like competence, right? Like to grow true confidence is through competence. That's what I heard. So like the better you know, the better you can believe in your ability, then you just grew in confidence. Yeah.
And I think something I noticed from you that I've noticed in my own life too is you start getting around other people that believe in you. And you start saying, okay, well, maybe I don't believe in myself right now, but they see something in me. Because sometimes, we all have moments where other people see things in you that you can't see in yourself yet. And they see the best qualities and the best parts of you because they don't listen to the voice inside your head, right? Yeah. So they're seeing you, they're like, you're more than capable. Of course you're going to do this. And so maybe sometimes it's adopting their belief and saying, okay, if this person believes in me, then I'm going to adopt that belief. I'm going to act as if this belief is right. Yeah. And I'm going to act that out until I start to believe in myself. I think that's a good way to start to tackling this. I don't think there's like a recipe to solve imposter syndrome for everyone. I think you have to navigate and find your own way through and not let it stop you.
But I also think it's good to have imposter sometimes, because then you realize that you are not, the best in everything. You don't know everything and you're willing to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that viewpoint. Of how we all just want to be like, oh, I just don't want to feel this way. I don't want to feel scared. But there's something about like a fear, a healthy fear, a healthy fear of like, oh, what if this doesn't work out? Oh, like, I don't know why, but I like to do races. And I just got done doing a race. It's called the Spartan Run. And one of the reasons I like doing these races is because as I'm preparing, especially if I'm pushing myself, there's a part of me that's like, what if I don't make it? What if I have to give up halfway because it's just too painful? Yeah. But there's some part of me it's like it brings out the best in me, And I don't know if you've seen that in your own personal life. Like when you push yourself past your limits, not too much, right? Yeah. Like if you've never done a marathon, that's probably not where to start. Maybe start with the 10K or something like that. Yeah. But do you ever feel like you did that professionally where you pushed yourself a little bit past your limits, but it was a good thing because it helped you grow?
For sure. Isn't it called calculated risk? Right?
Yeah, like a calculated risk.
Yes, definitely. I think in my professional life, example, with the coaching. So I was certified as a Gallup coach, and me being like a young professional having to coach companies, that's it's like, oh, I don't think I can do it. But then, like you said, something in me tell me, hey, you are qualified, you are certified for a reason. So yeah, so really like putting yourself out there, trying your best, knowing that you don't know enough and that you need the right people to help you get to your goal, and taking the calculated risk.
Yeah, almost finding, it's kind of weird, but like finding the joy in the uncertainty. I was thinking about that today. I'm gonna MC an event today.
Okay.
A little nervous, not gonna lie. It's a good nervousness though. And when I woke up today, there was like a focus, there was a determination, there was like, we're gonna get something done today. It's like that fear creates some energy.
Yeah.
And one thing I've learned to do is when that fear comes, I know how to transition that and make it into energy, versus just get so worried. I work myself in up too much. And I used to do that at the start. Like I'd get so worried, I'd be so exhausted that once I had to go speak or do something, I was so tired. But now it produces energy throughout the day, because I don't know where I read this or seen this, but it was talking about how when you're feeling like nervous versus excited, what's happening in your body is the exact same thing. Your palms are getting sweaty, your heart's beating a little bit faster, but in your mind, you either say, oh, I'm nervous, I'm not gonna be able to do this, versus in your mind, you say, I'm excited, I'm ready to do this. This is just more energy that I'm getting, you know?
I think I remember the feeling because me before leaving the university, because being the first gen, being like the first staff that work at the university, right? And my mom is like, oh my God, it's the best thing, right? But me decided to leave and then explore other, career in my life.
How long were you at the university before you left?
Almost 5 years. 4 years, and
so
then
you're
I
5
was
years,
a college coach.
Nice. You're getting your paycheck, you got your benefits, you're a full-time worker, you're settled in, you kind of know the work, and you're competent and you're feeling comfortable about doing the work. And then you decide to leave.
Yeah. And that's scary.
That's super scary.
Yeah.
That's one of the scariest things you can do.
But also I was excited for the future.
Oh.
Yeah.
You transferred.
At the same time. Yeah.
You transitioned that fear and nervousness into excitement of like what could be.
Exactly.
What made you make that leap?
So I do a lot of thinking in life. As you can tell, I think I'm pretty self-aware person.
You are.
I count my life. So I'm like 20 something. Okay, if I live about 70, I'm wasting like 25%, 30% of my life already. And what I truly want to help is people back home who really needed me. And that's why I just want to take risks to explore other, maybe doing freelance. And that's what I'm doing now, freelance, doing different projects.
So you took a step back and you said, okay, let me look at the big picture. I have a couple paths I can take. I can continue doing this work and it's fulfilling in its own way.
Yeah.
Or I could maybe go this other path that I'm kind of being called to, but it's a lot riskier.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of like self-awareness is, we're not saying one path is the right path. We're saying you have to know yourself, because entrepreneurship and starting your own things, they're not for everybody.
Yeah.
They're rarely really hard.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes on YouTube and on Instagram, we see like, oh, become your own boss. Oh, start your own organization. Like it sounds good, but I don't think it's for everyone.
Yeah.
I think you have to know yourself,
Yeah.
and you have to be willing to, I think it's good for people, if you're thinking about entrepreneurship or starting your nonprofit or organization where you're the driving force, you really have to have some self-drive. Like you cannot be the type of person that other people have to tell you what to do all the time. You have to go out and get some stuff done, right? So that quality of like being a self-starter. And sometimes too, you got to know about yourself too, because you could be in an area where you're not a self-starter because you're just not passionate about that stuff.
Yeah.
But once you find some things that you're passionate are you willing to go out and do things for yourself? What do you think is another trait that maybe a young person needs to have if they're thinking about being the driving force for an organization or starting something on their own?
Definitely, like you said, take your initiative, right? So be activator, really knowing that people are not responsible for you. You're responsible for yourself and your team. So really waking up and then knowing the vision. So having a clear vision is very important. And also think discipline and empathy.
Yeah. And I think too, another one is something that's been true about me as far as, one of the reasons I started my company, one of the reasons we started the nonprofit, Engaged Leaders, is because I fell in love with the work, the people that I do the work for. Like I fell in love with them. I fell in love with seeing them grow. I fell in love with the outcome of seeing them grow into amazing leaders like you and other people. Because the work is hard. It's really, really difficult. There's moments when you doubt yourself. A lot of moments where you're like, I'm not going to be able to pull this off. I'm going to make it. But if you find someone or a group of people or a cause that you really, really believe in, I think you're willing to go through some really hard times in life, right? Like I'm sure there's moments when you're doubting and you're like, oh, was this the right step? But then you think, we're doing some good work and we're going to go out and serve, and you see the impact that you're having on other people and it makes it worthwhile.
Yeah.
So finding that
I think
thing.
about my life as a puzzle. So like if you zoom out, what do you want to see? Majority of your life, what do you want to focus on, right? Because school is just 4 years. Let's say undergraduate, right? 4 years. If you were to do your master's, like another how many years? But then the majority of your life you spend is on working. So what kind of, work that you want to spend your life on? I think that's young people need to really think about that.
Yep, absolutely. So you make this leap. You say, I'm going to take a risk. Did you have this conversation with your mom? Because we got to know this, that if you're an immigrant refugee, even if you're grown, you always talking to your parents.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're living with our parents always.
Yeah, she's not happy. She's not happy about it. She's like,
tell me about this conversation. How did it go?
So I told her, I said, hey, I want to take risk and I want to start my own thing because I'm a certified coach. So I want to do my own coaching,
She's like, I don't even know what that means, but still, no, you're going to leave a good job where you get paid good money, secure.
Yeah, so she didn't get the whole point, but I said, hey, remember how you trusted me many years ago when I was going to do AmeriCorps? Do the same, I feel like I'm sometimes a mom to my mom because I feel like I'm always like teaching, like maybe not teaching, but like conversationing with her on like how do we move it forward, right? So yeah, I told her and she's like, as long as you're, we're okay, we can pay the bill, we can, we're okay, then yeah.
Yep. I like what you just said, like looking back and say, look, mom, you trusted me here and it got me here.
Yeah.
Trust me again. And, like, then I can go other places too. So like earning that trust from adults in your life with little things. So then they could say, okay, well, yeah, you're right. Like you're growing up and I have to let you start forging your own path. Yeah. And obviously like our parents don't want us to do reckless things, but sometimes they look that way, right? Especially if you're going on your own and starting a business or an organization, it's going to look like that way. But I think talking to them about the process and how look at then, look at now, and building that capital, that trust capital.
Exactly.
All right.
I like that. Trust capital.
Trust capital. Yep. You're building trust capital with everybody that you meet. So Manger, you were talking to me about, you see kind of life as the puzzle and putting pieces together. But one of the most important things is to look out, right? Just take a step back, which I think is that part of that self-awareness and introspection, asking myself, oh, where am I going? As you're looking here the next 50 years, where would you like Kenya Academy to be in the future? What's the ultimate goal?
That's a great question. As for now, I envision a community hub where different people with different skills coming together, share resources, and to create a community that make education accessible for immigrant, especially the Korean community and marginalized community back home. So that's in the nutshell. But it will change. It might change. It might be better than that. We never know because like I said, when I first started, it was just an online platform. But now we have a whole group of people coming together and working for this purpose.
Yeah. But that it would be maybe a resource that will continue to serve Korean communities all over the world, right?
That's the
in Thailand, in the US, in Australia and England, wherever there's Korean population or Kenya population, that would be a resource to help uplift them, develop leadership, and connecting them to their culture.
Exactly.
I think that's a piece that we were talking about, before. It's really, really important because there's a narrative, right? The Kenya people have a narrative.
Yeah.
You're overcomers.
Yeah.
They try to wipe you off the map. The Burmese government, but they couldn't, right? Your people are resilient. They're fighters. They're survivors. They're thrivers. I think when students that come to the U.S. or other countries, they disconnect from that. They disconnect from one of the most powerful resources. Why? And so I think what you're doing is reconnecting youth to their true power.
Exactly what you just said. So if you look at our logo, it's you zoom out, it's like adding values, but it's by through connecting with people, because that's like connecting dots. So
Adding value through connecting with
through
people.
connection. Yep.
Yeah, which I think is what you've done most of your professional career, right? Adding value to people, other people adding value to you, but staying connected. Stay connected to people. Stay connected to your roots. Stay connected to yourself and what you're thinking about for your future. Manger, as an education and community advocate, what do you think are some of the most important skills that young people who are looking into this career should gain?
I would say your ability to see the bigger picture. And also your ability to speak and write, because I do a lot of writing now. Example, like to write grant proposal, or just like a creative graphic design for the community events. And yes, being able to plan events, that is also very important. And your ability to see different skill in people, because as a community leader, you cannot do everything by yourself. So you really have to pick out, different skill within different people. So your ability to see through that is very important, and then to bring people together and to help people see the bigger picture of what you do and how will that benefit them, right? Because in a community work, it has to be mutually benefited for your volunteer and for the mission that you're working on. So you have to communicate that effectively.
Yeah. So the way you would speak to maybe an older Korean community member versus like a young person about being part of what Kenyao Academy is trying to achieve is different, right?
Exactly.
So maybe a young person, it's like, hey, you're going to develop your skills, you're going to reconnect with your culture. Maybe an older individual is like, hey, this is the way that you get to build young people's in their community. And so you're driving them towards a similar mission and vision, but you're speaking to them at their level.
Exactly.
And I think that's one thing that you've been really good at, as we've been talking in this podcast. It's like, even when you engage with your mom, it's like, hey, how can I speak to her in her language, right? Like, we speak Korean, but like the way that you speak to somebody from an older generation, or they have different belief systems, different values. And I think that's really insightful, is trying to say, how can I speak to this person in their language, in the way they would understand it, in the metaphors that they would understand as well. I got one final question for you.
Okay.
What's your number one piece of advice you would give to students or young people as they're trying to navigate their career journey?
I am thinking about the current immigrant population right now. I would say number one, forgive your parents, forgive yourself, because we have different generations and we all try to survive in this country. Just because, it is true to them, and, like we have different challenges, right? Like back home we have to be afraid of the shelling. We were poor, but now here we have the resources, but we also have different challenges, how do you navigate those challenges? So like really forgive what happened, forgive them, and also really know that you are here because someone back home is fighting for your freedom, right? So really think about your life, and then don't feel entitled to it, because I think many times people, when they think about young people, they're so entitled, but we can prove them wrong, right? So be a blessing to yourself, be a blessing to your community, and you will become a blessing to the whole world, right? But first you have to forgive them and forgive yourself, and then grow.
Beautifully said. So thank you for joining us for today's episode, and always remember, on your career journey, keep exploring.